podcast that explores the intersections of inspiring technology, fascinating people, captivating stories, or hopefully a combination of all three. So get ready to embrace your inner cool kid as we go behind the scenes with today's innovators and storytellers. I'm your host, Cameron Kitt, CEO of You Own Your Own Stories, a documentary storytelling company. And today we have the incredible privilege of chatting with Jay Smith, who is the awesome Regional Vice President of Sales in the Carolinas for Zimmer Biomet. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
So we had a quick pre-discussion, and I was really blown away by some of the technology, which I think is why I was really excited about this episode. But I like to start with the story. Can you tell me about a patient or customer story that just really stands out to you?
As long as I've been doing this, that's kind of hard to pick one. I think you have to look at the ones that hit close to home. And early in my career, you don't really know what you're going to do early in life. And when I jumped into this career, not long after that, I had a family member, actually my grandmother, who needed a hip replacement. And I was at the point in my career where I was just learning what hip replacements were. When you start out or when you're young or you talk to someone and you're like, well, a knee replacement or a hip replacement, you're thinking we're going to hack off their whole leg here and we're going to rebuild this thing with some big robot arm and it's going to be, it's not really that. So to see someone in just so much pain that's close to you, have an experience, still be in a little bit of pain after, and quite honestly mad at her grandson early on because it didn't feel better right away. But then to see them miraculously recover that fast, get better, get back to things they haven't been doing in the last 10, 15 years, is truly amazing. It's an industry that it's life changing, and when you see it hit close to home, it just kind of it's cool to see.
It's interesting that you remember it when it's your grandmother, right? And I think they use that with training for clinicians a lot of time that I've heard is like for nurses, like remember that could be your mom, like when you walk into the room, like remember
Sure.
that. And I actually had a woman come on the podcast who was an ER doctor who didn't really understand the level of like patient empathy and care until it was her mom's life on the line in the ER. So yeah, I think that's what hit home. So how early into your career did grandma get a hip replacement?
Oh, like 6 months. 6 months. So I was learning, and I acted very professional and told her what the process would be like I knew what I was talking about. But I candidly, we were kind of going through it at the same time. But it was cool to see her recovery, what she went through, and me being in those procedures beforehand with the surgeons. I had a little bit of feedback to give her to let her know what she was going to be going through. And on the other side, it came out awesome. So it was a good experience for her. But like you said, I mean, we talk with our reps. We talk about that every day in this business. It's a patient. At the end of the day, there's a patient on the table. That patient could be a family member. It could be someone you know and care about. And so the surgeons look at it that way, and we have to look at it that way in our industry as well.
Because as a sales rep, what's the word for sales rep that you guys use at Zimmer?
It pretty much is sales rep. You have
Sales rep.
sales rep, and then you have some clinical specialists. It depends on what territory you're in, the size of your territory. We have anywhere from one man teams or two man teams, and we have some that are 10 to 15 members on each of those teams.
But a lot of times, because I've heard companies be like team member, it's like try to come up with some euphemism. But a lot of
Sure.
times, what I hear from surgeons is like, you're part of the clinical team, you're in the room, you're in the case a lot of the time. Is that how many cases? Like, are you in most of them when you're working with patients? Like, you can't be in
Early in
all.
my career, early in my career, I was in cases all day, every day,
Yeah.
and at night some too. The role I'm in now, I'm more of a management role, so I have a lot of sales reps, team members, clinical staff, clinical specialists, we call them. They're more so in the day to day now, but yeah, just about every orthopedic procedure that goes on, there's usually some sort of clinical specialist or sales representative in that room. And to your point, sales rep doesn't really fit the bill because you're kind of part of the process from the beginning, part of the planning. You got to have all the right tools and instruments when you show up. You have to have the implants there, and you kind of need to know your stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're more dependent on than others, and you need to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes you might be the one who knows the most about this new, tool than some of the people in the room. And yeah, you are. So that, I mean, I didn't really know that. And I think it creates a definite change in like my respect for the role that you guys are playing. It's not just about selling features and benefits. It's like we're assisting, there's a lot more to it. But let me ask you, Jay. So you've been with Zimmer since basically the beginning, right? This is like you're committed. You've been in a committed
20
relationship. Yeah.
24 years, 24 years. Yeah. So I've been
Yeah.
here a while.
And so what was some of the, you mentioned going in with a lot of confidence with your grandmother. What was one of the biggest plot twists you faced early on in this career that you had to overcome?
I think the biggest thing and at my company in particular, we have a big bag. So you think you've got one thing down really pat. Hey, I think I've learned how to get through a knee replacement, but I've got to do hips as well, or I've got to do trauma as well, sports medicine. So I think staying up to par on all the different fronts of the implants that we carry. And you've got to know what you carry, and you have to know what the competition carries and what your surgeons want and what they don't want. So a lot of it is just staying up to date because, when I started, I had a big pager on my hip and a flip phone, and now we're planning surgeries on smartphones. So, and I'm not the most tech savvy guy. So you've had to grow with it that way.
Yeah,
The market's gotten smarter. Things have gotten so much more advanced. And if you don't stay up with it, you'll get passed by pretty
yeah.
quick.
I imagine that was a lot of like memorization and learning. When you say a big bag, are you talking like 20 products?
Oh, it's thousands for us.
Thousands of products.
Because you have so many different versions. When you think, a knee replacement or a hip replacement, it's not just the standard, hey, these are the three items you're going to use for every one. We have so many different options and variations. And then you get into sports medicine and things like that with anchors, trauma, pins, screws, nails, rods. I mean, it's so much different stuff and different body parts, and everybody doesn't utilize it the same way either. So you have different surgeons. There's no one way to do something specific. So you have to learn tendencies and products.
Oh, and then you have to remember how like Dr. Harrison likes to do it freestyle this way. Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. I imagine you
Exactly.
have to do some like serious memory techniques to memorize.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big note taker. So early in my career, I bet I had stacks of the little binders that would fit in my pocket. I would just write down tendencies and little things like that along the way because you can't go from one room to the other and do it the same way. So you
Mm,
have to learn each way, each tendency, and different products as well.
yeah, that's so fascinating. We talked. Speaking of the big bag, one of this podcast is about cool tech, and I had asked you about that before, and I think we had talked about the Persona IQ. Can you tell me about what you think is some of the coolest technology happening in the joint replacement space right now?
It's crazy. Again, not to go back to the past, but thinking about where I started at, and some surgeons well before me and reps well before me. Um, you walked in with a few trays, you had a few instruments and a couple options, and now, we're to the point now to where hey, we had a case back then. You show up with your stuff, we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. The way it's evolved, there's so much technology out there across all companies, and then a lot of companies that are developing daily that aren't necessarily the big company today, but their tech is really big. So they're either turning into a big company or they are potentially being purchased by a bigger company. We're in the age of robotics. I mean, every company out there almost has a robot or some type of platform to do it. We've embarked into the realm of AI and smart implants, which is to me just crazy. But it's super cool to watch it happen. We're talking about cool stuff. So the fact that where we are today, I have no idea where we're going because if I knew 10 years ago where we'd be at right now, I would have told you you're a liar. That'll never happen. You have to do it this way. But the technology side of it is remarkable, and somebody's coming out with something different every day, and it's really fun to watch.
So what's one piece of technology that would have just blown 2016 Jay Smith's mind that he would have been like, no, no way.
Yeah, I have to look at. I'll say technology as a whole. I said that I'll go into the smart knee because I think Persona IQ is just super cool and what it's doing for patients out there today. But the ability now we have with technology, AI, robotics, we're doing a lot of these cases where we're planning before we start. It used to be you went in, surgeon made incision, we kind of saw what was there, we adapted to it. With a lot of the robotics platforms and things today, we're doing so much templating and pre-planning that we've almost done the procedure before we've even started. We know what's going to happen. We've assessed bony defects. We've assessed soft tissue and things like that, where before you couldn't see it until you got down to it. We can assess that with robotics. We know sizing. We know things before we go in. So it's a lot more efficient. There's a lot less guess and check along the way, for a lack of a better term.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then when you get into the smart knee that we have now, it basically has a component on the knee that has enough ability within it. It has an antenna. It does not track you. Every patient always wonders that, like, do they know when I'm at the grocery store? No, it does not do that.
What,
But
like a police monitor on your
yes,
ankle?
exactly. There's
When
nobody in
you
a
go
in a
into
room.
Dunkin' Donuts? Yeah, that's so
Correct.
funny. Yeah.
There's nobody in a room with a bunch of screens mapping out what you're doing around town. Um, but it's we're able for the first time ever to see the recovery process at its
Hmm.
best. If you link that with robotics, you can go, we planned it this way, we did it this way, how is the patient recovering? And with the smart implant, we're able to see range of motion, we're able to see step count, we're able to pick up all these factors of, hey, this patient says they're doing good, but how are they really doing? And what that's led to is just we're getting so many millions of data points to where the patient that thinks they're doing great may not be doing that great. And we can see that without them having to come in and go, hey, Mrs. Smith, you might need to come back in because we're not seeing the pattern of recovery that we want to see here. Or somebody may think they're doing really bad because they compared it to someone else or whatever. And we can go, the surgeon can go, you're doing outstanding. Just keep doing what you're doing, or you're overdoing it. Maybe slow down a little bit. And what that's led to, we've seen it firsthand. It's led to faster recoveries, less opioids for some people,
Yeah.
because which is huge right now. And anytime we can cut down on that, which is great. But when you know how someone is recovering, they don't always get the prepackaged care plan. It's more catered specifically to each patient. It's super cool to watch that because
Hmm.
if you and I both got a total knee replacement tomorrow, um, our pathways to recovery may be completely different. And what
Huh.
it's also allowed is these people that want to that are like, some people get a joint replacement and they go, I want to take my time, I want to recover. And then other people have different lifestyles and they want to get back to doing what they're doing. And if they're recovering at a good rate, let them go. And sometimes it's a convenience issue as well, to where it's not always easy for someone to get back to those follow up appointments. And if they're doing the right things the right way, we can be more efficient and eliminate so many touch points along the way. It's more efficient for the patient, it's more efficient for the surgeon, the care team, everyone involved, to where we're going, hey, listen, this patient's doing great. They don't need to come back. We can put a new patient in that seat and get to taking care of them tomorrow, as opposed to wasting a lot of time along the way.
Like, okay, Jay, you just said so many, like, I'm gonna nerd
I
out
did.
on this too. Like, I'm
I
gonna nerd
did.
out on this, but like, I want to break it, like, so many exciting things. One is this is tying into this advent of really personalized medicine. It's not just in joint
Sure.
replacement. It's like so
Correct.
many places that we're like, now we have data, we can personalize medicine. Like, I'm talking to people who do like at home blood tests now, and like then
Oh
instantly
yeah.
you get the data, and then like this like personalized medicine as a pathway towards convenience that would have blown my mind 10 years ago, right? What you just said
Sure.
about saving time, the doctor can look at, I guess, the app or whatever and say, actually, you look great, David, stay right there, we're good to, like, and of course David wants to save the full day that it takes to drive over and bring his wife and go to the doctor and whatever, wait. But I want to ask, just to break it down a little bit for people who maybe don't know the joint replacement space as well, can you give me an example of a hypothetical patient that would get something like this, and then exactly what kind of things it would show? in there? Let's say it's a
Sure.
knee.
Sure. So, and right now, the smart implant is only available in the knee.
Okay. In the
So
knee.
it's going to transfer to other parts, but right now, the most important one they thought, and the first release was in the knee. So basically, when you have that knee replacement and you're worried about your recovery, there's so many factors that go into that. But ultimately, you want to get back to the range of motion and the movement and the steps you had before, things like that. If you had knee pain, first off, you want the pain to go away, but more
Hmm.
importantly, you want to get back to life and doing the things you were doing before. That is a big process, and it's different for you than it is me or anybody else out there. And before, protocols are pretty standard. Expectations almost can be standard to some point. But what this has done is gone, hey, look, in a lot of cases, we have what's called a My Mobility app, and we'll do some pre work with the patient as well to kind of get their state, where they're at, their range of motion preoperatively and things like that. And we kind of set expectations, or the surgeon does, what he expects that recovery curve to look like for the patient. The patient also gets the data through their phone so they can see how they're doing as well. So it's a little bit of two-way accountability there. But specifically, if I get a knee replacement and I said, hey, doc, I'm doing great. I took 1,000 steps yesterday, or I did whatever. That can be me getting up and going to the fridge and getting a thing of
Yeah.
ice cream and coming
Yeah.
back 5 times a day.
Yeah.
What this does is it quantifies it to where it is an actual meaningful step. So if they are not doing the proper exercise they should be doing, or they're not doing the stretches, the range of motion, they'll get physical therapy almost through their phone for
Hmm.
exercises to do. The surgeon kind of knows it and can see it. Some people don't do enough, some people do too much. The key is to finding that sweet spot. And what this allows is that. And we've seen it to where we've had surgeons have had to back patients down. They're going too hard. We've seen it to where a lot of times you have to manipulate a knee after surgery, which means you come in and work it again. We've been able to cut those off beforehand and say, hey, look, this isn't where it needs to be. Let's go ahead and manipulate this now. And that can prevent other surgeries later. It can prevent revisions and things like that. Um, we've had, it's funny. I'll give an instance. Not funny. This is not funny. Let me rephrase that. We had one patient that was a surgeon. I was actually in the surgeon's office, and we were going through his data early on to see how things were doing. We had like a little data review with him, and he had one patient that didn't have a whole lot of activity, and he became worried. And immediately, you just kind of flag that. You set your markers and you manage by exception. And we reached out, and he had another illness, so he was not being active because he had another thing he was admitted to the hospital for. But it allows us to pinpoint things like that. Again, the manage by exception is a big key because again, I'm going deep here. I'm getting long winded, but the right now that care team, if a surgeon has an assistant, a medical assistant, a PA, and they have 150 patients in their workflow, they're calling 150 patients. They're scheduling 150 patients to come back in. They're looking at 150 people. Well, if 100 of them are doing great, we don't need to manage 150 the same way. We can take those 100 and say, hey, look, you're doing good. Keep it up. See me when you want to see me. And we can focus on those that really, really need to be taken care of.
Because this is actually making me think about the surgeon. Because I've actually interacted with these ortho surgeons, and they want to have they're stuck because they want to have an emotional moment with you. They want to give you all the time, but they also have to get to the next room
Sure.
right now. And there's like that tension. So I think imagining cutting out, first of all, five of the patients you see in a day who don't actually need to be there, and then
Correct.
they start chatting you up, and you're like, "That's great to hear. I gotta go." That's always painful. But two, also, I'm not going to say tattling. This proof point of if someone is saying complaining, pushing back, and then you can say, well, it says right here, you haven't been doing your work. I don't know if that would help them, but I can hear a lot of benefit for them. And when you say helping more patients, like me personally, I do check my steps. I'm not at my sister's level. My sister wears a Whoop, the thing that gives you like a rating of your sleep score.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
I'm terrified of that. Like, I don't want to see what my sleep score is.
Me
Like,
neither.
I don't want
Me
to be
neither.
told. but this is like a new wave where we are interested in tracking our own biometrics, and in a way, like personalized medicine is also like more accountability for me. Like the more data I have, the more maybe ownership I have over it. Whereas if you're like waiting for your personal trainer to come show up to make you do your leg exercises, it's like a little more passive. But I'm excited. This is hype. Like this is hyped up to me, and I think this is really cool technology. You're probably not allowed to theorize about, but I imagine will be expanded into many more things in the future. This kind of tracking technology into more implants that we get. But I just want to take a quick break and remind everyone that this podcast is brought to you by Yo-Yos. You Own Your Own Stories, a documentary storytelling company that demystifies cutting-edge technology with emotional human stories. If you've got a cool story to share, we can help you get it out there. All right, so Jay, what is one thing that you wish people knew?
Hmm. You know, as it relates to this space, that's it's a hurdle that I've struggled with a little bit in my career, because it's one of those things to where I wish people would focus on if they're truly in pain. Like if you
Mm.
are in pain, it used to be in the past, hey, fight through it, push it off, pass it out as far as it can go. Surgeons of today are so highly skilled at every level. And all I can say is, listen, I don't like going to the doctor. I work with them every day. I would be, if we were talking about these smart implants or somebody to gauge how I was doing, you wouldn't catch me on my follow up if I didn't need to be there. But I think a lot of people kind of kick the can down the road a little bit when, if they go in and see the right provider and they get in at the right point in time, whatever is hurting them can be addressed. And it doesn't mean you're going to get a knee replacement or a hip replacement. It may be you need some therapy. It may be you need a sports medicine type procedure. You may need a repair. So it's not so much that I wish I knew, but I wish I could find that sweet spot for every patient out there in pain, because technology is so advanced in this field now to where, you had that friend or family member that you knew, and you're like, look, don't go until you have to go. Fight this as long as you can. And I've caught myself now, as opposed to in the past, going, look, if it's hurting, go in and get it taken care of, because you may get 10 years back. You may be your old self a little bit sooner, and the procedure you have done may be completely different. If you keep wearing something out and keep making it worse, the intervention can completely change. That, as far as patient care, I would say that's something that I wish I could tell people. I wish I knew the right time for them to go in, and it's getting so much better, along, because a total knee doesn't always go, hey, my knee hurts, I need a total knee. It may be they need one of 10 different procedures that lead up to that, and they may never have that total knee. So don't be afraid to go see your doctor. Don't be afraid to go in there and have it taken care of.
What you just said, that's actually something I didn't know. I didn't know that there was multiple options. It's not like if my knee hurts, they're gonna say, well, we're gonna get it replaced and you're going in today. Like that's not gonna happen. I really want to unpack this though, because I'm so glad you said this, which is kind of this idea of don't wait until you can't walk. Like there's something that comes up for me is I saw a post about this recently. It's like suffering is not noble, right? Like there's no
Sure.
nobility in being in pain. Like it makes everyone else upset. It's like no one else is like so proud of you that you're suffering in silence, right? Like it's just I'm wondering where that came from culturally, because I don't even know if it's American. I think it's like a planet Earth thing where we just like want to be strong for others and we don't want to be a burden. But like I think in a way what I'm hearing from you is going in and checking it out is a way to not be a burden, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I wonder what do you think it would take? Do you think it's just going to take Gen Z kids being like pro self help to change this culture? Like,
You know, I think that is a big part of it. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, but everybody else is. I feel like all my surgeon customers are younger. Patients are more informed than ever. I mean, the internet was new back when I first kind of started this job. We were talking about flip phones earlier. I think there's so many resources out there that are attainable at people's fingertips that I think they're they're starting to come around, and definitely the youth, the younger people in America are. But you're right. I mean, I think in the past it was always, and I grew up playing sports and stuff. It was always fight through it, push through it.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said about that. Don't get me wrong. Especially if my father ever saw this, he would argue with me on that. He thinks you should fight through. If your arm's hanging off and you got hit by a car, just suck it up and go to work the
Yeah,
next day.
unless I'm seeing bone, we're not stopping the game, right?
Yes,
That kind of
that that
stuff.
that's
Yeah.
that's it exactly. But I think now I think we're just smarter as a whole, as a
Mm.
country, nation. Globally we're smarter, and we're more informed, so we're learning more about options. But yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah, I think people need to focus on their health a little more. I think all the data we have out there, from your step count to your sister's Whoop to
Yeah.
Smart Knees, it's letting us know what we're doing. I mean, you can monitor your sleep, things like that. We're learning the importance of overall health, and I think that plays into all of this directly, and
Mm.
it's pushing people to get informed sooner. At the same time, too, in the past, people didn't have those resources. They didn't have a lot of people didn't have a choice but to fight through it. A lot of people didn't have a choice
True.
but to go back to work the next day.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of people out there like that. And again, the stuff we talked about today can help them get back to that faster. And that, I think, at the end of the day, that's the most important part. If you do the right things, you see the right people, you can get back to what you want to do or need to do.
Like the getting back to what I love. One guy I talked to with regards to knee replacement said something about like, he lives in Orlando, and that he and his girlfriend love to go see live music. They have a couple bands they love to go see, and he and her will dance on the dance floor and party. And he said, I couldn't dance anymore, and I felt like I was in timeout. And like, I've never forgotten that. And it's like, oh my God, like that's exactly where it is. It's like, well, why don't sit in timeout? Like, get
Exactly.
back to dancing. Your girlfriend would like that. And I think, yeah, I don't know what it's going to take. I think what it sounds like it will take is like this more increased awareness of our own health, right? So like when me tracking my steps actually encouraged me to buy one of those little walking pads under my desk so I could get more steps in during the day, because I was pissed off that I had so many fewer steps than my boyfriend. I was like, why is this not bad? And it was like helpful, right? Like, oh, okay,
Sure.
it gave me an awareness that I don't think I was going to get in my my like yearly check-in with my doctor. But when you talk, I just want to clarify something. You talk about, oh, it could be a sports medicine procedure. What would be a procedure, that would be an alternative that might happen for me if I had knee pain that might be not a total knee? Because like, yeah, I'd be interested in that.
It all depends on if you have a specific injury. A lot of people are like, oh, my knee hurts on, the medial side. Oh, I'm just going to fight through it and push through it. But, well, if you could have had some intervention there, you had a meniscus tear or something was wrong with one of your collateral ligaments, you could have went in and got that repaired at that point in time. You hear people all the time about getting ACL reconstruction and things like that. Those are knee injuries that some people, especially in the past, have fought through. And by not repairing it in the right way, it leads to further damage down the road, to where you probably could potentially at least have prolonged your health and said, hey, I feel better. I'm going to push these things further out. I may never need a joint replacement. Or the alternative is this side goes bad, then this wears out and that goes bad. The next thing you know, I've been in pain for 10 years and I need a total knee anyway. There's no guarantee that it would all lead to a replacement. There's no guarantee you'd get it or not, but why not have it addressed, feel better during that time, and actually know what was the root cause of the pain? What was the root cause of me needing this knee replacement 15 years later? And if you address them along the way, I mean, there's viscose supplementation where people just get injections, and it works for a lot of patients. Any type of sports injury, it's called sports, but you can tear your ACL,
Mowing the
walking down the
lawn.
hallway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of people out there will just go, hey, it hurts, I'll deal with it. When like you talked about your guy dancing, he didn't dance. Maybe he could have got something done early on and went ahead and got back to dancing. And if he couldn't dance later on, you address that
He was
that
actually on the
excellent
younger
recovery.
side. Yeah, he was in,
Yeah,
I think, early 50s, like a
yeah.
very athletic guy. And I think what I'm hearing is that most people go in for something when they're no longer mobile, like when it's like this is the last option on the block, and am I suffering, and my Advil PM has not like sat. I don't know if you're allowed to do this. You can say like pass, but could you give me a sense of like a pain scale that you wouldn't go to 10 every day? Like if something has been recurring pain for like multiple months, would you say go to the doctor? Like what are some timelines or relative scales that you think would be a good time to like maybe go get this checked out?
Sure. I mean, I think there's the one thing about medicine as a whole and orthopedics is there's no exact science. There's no this pain in this point at a 4 means you're going to get this. So it could, and again,
Okay,
because we
go
talked
for
about it
it.
being personalized, everybody's a little different.
That's true.
Um, I think if you crawl out of bed in the morning and something feels kind of weird and, you take some Advil or whatever you do and it doesn't get better over an extended period of time, a few weeks, it's worth going to get it checked because you may find out. Um, for instance, I knew someone very recently, not a big, not a big complainer, pretty tough person, had some knee pain, called me, said, hey, who do I need to go see? This has been hurting for a few weeks now.
Hmm.
They're an older person. They said, I'm probably going to have to get it replaced. They went in. They just had some arthritis. They had some arthritis. It was, it was rubbing. It was some discomfort. They did an MRI. They said, hey, look, you're okay. We're going to put you on some light meds, and they're back perfectly fine now.
Hmm.
But at least they went and found out because peace of mind is a long way goes a long way too. I mean,
Yeah.
knowing that hey, this isn't as bad as I think, or it's not as good as I think. At least knowing that next step in your care progression makes everybody feel a little bit better. If you know you got to have surgery, you at least mentally can prepare for it,
Yeah.
and have some people around you help you prepare for it. But if you're out there just hurting every day and you don't know why you're hurting, that's sometimes just as uneasy as knowing, hey, I've got a joint replacement coming up next month. So
Yeah. I just realized that I think probably the dread of the assumption of a surgery is what might hold people back. But
absolutely.
one of the big takeaways, first of all, Jay, you're so like the way you talk about this makes it so accessible. So I really appreciate that. Maybe it's just good to not talk to a surgeon. That you're like making a real person. Like, is that what I'm taking away is that like every body is different. It's weird that I need to be reminded of that, and that we now have tools to treat people differently, and also to give us more information in your own hands than you've ever gotten. And I think there's benefits for patients and surgeons, and maybe the whole world and the extended family there. Um, my my last question for you is, who do you think would be a phenomenal guest on this show, considering you know what we talk about and what we're interested in?
Oh wow. I think that I think going. You said I'm not a surgeon, but I know some great surgeons out there that would be
I would
good
love to talk to a
candidates
surgeon.
to
Yes.
talk to. I have a lot of surgeon friends, but at the same time, I have a lot that have strong convictions one way or the other on certain aspects. I would love, and we'll talk a little bit offline about this maybe, but there's so many different ideas out there now. There's so many different methods that are being taught and learned, and they're so inventive, and they're so. I think a lot of them are groundbreaking. I mean, if you look at not to get super clinical here, but I can remember when the reverse total shoulder came out, and I won't go into depth on that. And it was, this was 15 years ago, and now that is almost commonplace. I mean, it is everybody, not everybody, but most people have that in their bag if they're a shoulder surgeon. Anterior hip replacement. So, all hips used to be done.
Anterior meaning going in through your back.
Anterior is coming right through the front. Anterior
Oh,
is coming
sorry.
right through the front. Yep.
Posterior is the back.
Posterior is to the back. Yep.
Yeah, and
but
some people never. We didn't used to do that.
Yeah, but
We used to.
no, not at all. But there's so many different methods out there. I can give you some guys to talk to that are coming up with some new ideas. I think uh, there's some guys, Dr. Jesse Otero at Ortho Carolina in Charlotte. I mean, they're so focused on infection there and how to treat, joint infection after having a total joint replacement. And it's such a big thing out there today, because the more and more of these we do, the more you're going to have issues down the road. And so a lot of these guys today are taking care of the total knees and total hips that were done 30 years ago, or
Oh,
the tough
wow.
cases and the tough revisions. And they're doing some great stuff. Greg Colbath is a sports and upper extremity surgeon in the upstate of South Carolina, and he is on a staunch mission to reduce the amount of opioids that patients use these days. And he's got a great platform that he pushes on there. He does a lot of mission work, outreach work. I could name 100 of them, but
But some of
there's
these guys
just
that are on a mission to like not just do their work, but kind of make change is that's
sure.
intriguing to me for sure. Yeah, especially, I mean, you talk about infection prevention. We can get really scary about super bugs, and there's a lot of fear out there. So I like hearing. Thank you. That would be really helpful. And Jay, is there anything else you want to leave our audience with before we wrap up?
No, I just, first off, thanks for having me today. It was great talking to you. As you can tell, I can be very long-winded. I'm passionate about this industry. I think the orthopedic surgeons out there today in the world are doing some of the best work imaginable. We all have a common goal of getting people back to what they want to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just want patients to feel more comfortable reaching out to their providers and taking care of themselves as a whole, not just we're not just talking bones here. I'm not just focused on orthopedics, but if everybody's healthier as a whole, everything else kind of falls in line. So it's a great industry to be in. I love it. As you can tell, it's pretty much all I've done
Yeah,
in my entire career.
you've been fully committed since the beginning, and I think that's really impressive. I mean, I think yeah, I'm still thinking about this. Like, what would it take to kind of shift the culture to not feeling shame for getting help or just getting peace of mind? I mean, I know you guys work with Arnold Schwarzenegger, so I think sometimes it helps to see celebrities say like, I
Sure.
went in, and there's just a lot of different touch points. But I think probably the more I don't know. The last thing I will say is what blows my mind about the space you work in is that it used to be like a 3-day, 4-day hospital
Oh
stay,
yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
And now it's like what? How many? I mean, now it's getting like less and less time in the OR, right? I mean, less time under
It
anesthesia.
is. Yeah. You've got people, as soon as they're waking up in the recovery room, they want them on their feet. They want them moving. And in a lot of instances, within an hour and a half, they're in the car and they're going home.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, and it's
Like,
there's more to come. I mean, you've got more people. The population's getting bigger. I should have the statistics here in front of me, but how many joint replacements are expected to be done over the next few years is unreal. So,
oh, I hadn't
um,
thought of that. Yeah, because we
yeah,
keep living longer and wanting to be active and happy that whole time.
absolutely, absolutely. So,
I'm
if there's more being done, you got to be more efficient at doing them. So, it's a great space. Watching it change over the 20 plus years I've been around has been awesome, and it'll pass me by very
much
quickly
more to
because
come.
it's changing every day.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much for listening to Cool, Cool, Cool. I'm your host, Cameron Kitt from Yo-Yos, and a huge thank you to Jay Smith from Zimmer Biomet for joining us and sharing this incredible story about how technology is changing. So check out the show notes for a link to the website to see the Persona IQ and learn more about it. And let us know what you thought of the episode on social media using the hashtag CoolCoolCoolPodcast. Jay, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.